Hello, everybody. It is 2:24 p.m. Central Time on the 7th of July, 2021. It's 7/7/21. A little bit of weirdness going on there. Good weirdness. But hey, let's get into the seismic activity. I'm recording now. We're going to upload this over on YouTube and premiere it back in a premiere when I'm done here live on Twitch. Okay, so that being said, let's turn on a display capture so you can see what I see. And that's a beautiful view of the lake, isn't it? Got two cameras out there on the edge of the dock. We're not here to talk about any of that, though. Look at what is going on. Past 48 hours worth of activity, we are seeing a dramatic increase in the number of 5.0 range quakes, spreading across a vast region, spreading down below the plates with the two earthquakes you see raised high off the globe here. We're looking at 5.0 and greater right now. Take it down to 4 and greater, and you're going to see there's a flurry of new deep earthquakes spreading from Japan all the way back down to Fiji, and technically in the past day and a half, 2 days, reaching all the way over to Romania, and reaching all the way down to South America with moderately deep activity. But mainly, it's in the West Pacific. Now, last week, we were looking for a 7.5 earthquake, and nothing hit in the middle of this area. Now, the whole area is shifting on a 5.0 basis, spreading across 8 to 10,000 miles, linear miles, going from Japan back all the way down to Fiji. Let's turn the 5s and greater back on here. And let me just make sure you can see all this. So you can see the spread. Now, the deep earthquakes, this is for new viewers. Let me just quickly explain. Down below the plates, here's what I think is going on. VLF, electrically induced, electroplasma induced. But a VLF, very low frequency wave that's spread out over thousands of miles, hundreds of miles, but it focuses in on itself, and it can't go down into the fluid of the asthenosphere magma down below the plate, and so it hammers in on the underside of the plate, so thousands of miles focusing in on a small area, hammering in. The hammering action starts a series of standing waves, so imagine this as one hammer that comes in. Deep earthquake. Starts spread a wave out. It goes and reflects off the other end of the tank and starts basically going back into itself, forming a standing wave. And the more hammering we get, the more energy that's pumped in, the more that's reflected back. But where's it reflecting? What's the tank? The tank, or the tanks, are the plate boundaries. The plate boundaries themselves, the cracks between the plates, are acting like a tank in the laboratory. And so we get equal-spaced earthquakes spreading out vast distances going across these red lines, these plate boundaries. And the equal-spaced quakes are like the equal-spaced waves in the standing wave tank. And as the waves spread, they then reflect back at certain points. And you can see the points where they reflect back. Again, there are bends and breaks in the plate that are hard for a wave to go around. If you imagine a wave trying to go around something, it's a jagged edge that reflects back. And when it reflects back, the middle points get filled in between the previous sets of quakes. Now watch this. I'll hit play, and I'm just going to park my mouse over the middle of the wave. What you'll see is each next wave fills in the previous wave's middle point perfectly. The fulcrum point, or the crest of the wave, goes to the valley of the wave, or the trough of the wave, and that middle point between the two gets filled in by the next wave. And then we get equal-spaced quakes spreading out thousands of miles, and they're all about the same size. So think of it like this. A 5, 4.9. A 5.1. Another 5.1. Two more 4.9s. Another 5. And then at the other end, a 5.3. Now think of that as the waves going across and then bouncing back. But the bounce back point is over here. And we get a deep earthquake down below. Right below, west of Japan. Whenever we see deep earthquakes down below west of Japan, normally we're looking right here on our letter D. This is slightly off from the letter D. I watch this way, over into Asia. If it's on the east side of Japan, we watch for energy to go up following the plate boundary up to Kamchatka, over to Alaska. So in this case, we have to watch both. It's right between the two. Let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to turn on the shell. Now the shell feature shows us, again, a dome around the quake, and I'm interested in this Again, in this one right here in Japan, look where the shell reaches out to. The shell reaches all the way up here to the tip of the Kuril Islands at Ebiko Volcano right here. The shell also reaches back down basically into the middle of the Izu Ridge here south of Japan. And the dome also, or the shell, reaches out here right to where the other earthquake is. And I mean exactly to that point, right across Taiwan right there. And then you see it reaches out over into China right at the tip of our arrows and at the backside of our arrow. So both directions, to the northeast and to the west, should move. And it should be something about a magnitude larger than what we're dealing with right now. This has a hammering action coming up from down below it. Let me go back and show you one more time in the wave tank. So here's the wave tank. VLF over hundreds, if not thousands of miles, hammering up and into the underside of the plate. And that's where it then spreads up, out, and away. And then it runs into these, the red lines, the cracks in the plate. So think of these cracks in the plates, or boundaries between the plates, as a crack that starts at the surface and meanders all the way down to the underside of the plate. And so if you're pushing up on the underside of the plate, and there's a crack on the underside of the plate that goes all the way up through it to the surface, which way do you think the wave's going to take? Think of a crack in a flood wall. Which way do you think the water's going to take? Think hammering waves coming into a flood wall and a crack in the wall. Where do you think the wave's going to hammer in the most? It's going to hammer in on that weak point. Same principle applies, but we're talking about vast distances. And this all happened in 48 hours. So what's going on? Why are we seeing sudden increase across, especially in 5s and new deep earthquakes? Well, there's the X-class flare that happened a few days ago, and it takes 2 to 3 days for those charged particles to arrive to Earth. And then 2 days or less, 24 hours sometimes, after that, there's a conversion that goes down into the core of the Earth and comes back up with new deep earthquakes and big earthquake activity. Also, volcanic activity starts to increase majorly after we see a bombardment from the sun. Whether it's a flare sending charged particles towards Earth, whether it's a strong solar wind from a coronal hole, whether it's a coronal mass ejection of physical ejecta, filament burst, if it's going towards Earth and those charged particles bombard Earth and compress the magnetosphere, that energy goes down to ground, that electrical energy from the aurora. The northern and southern lights, the air glow, it goes down to the core. And the core is not a solid ball of metal, nor is it molten. Has to be one thing, something that rotates extremely fast, oscillates electrically, and emits VLF. How do we know it emits VLF? Before big earthquakes, VLF is emitted up out of the core of the Earth and coming up out of the plates. Goes up into the ionosphere, up in space. Showed up before the big Japan earthquake in 2011. Showed up before the big Gorkha, Nepal earthquake a couple years later. Showed up before the big earthquake over in Indonesia back in 2004. VLF disturbances showing up in space in the ionosphere, up above an area, a day, 24 hours or so before a big earthquake. Well, that's VLF coming up out from even deeper, where the peaks are going up into the ionosphere. It's thousands of miles long, the VLF wave. So it's coming up out of the core, it's going up to space, and it's coming back down and going back down to the core, the VLF wave. Think of it that way. Okay? Now that you understand the basics of physics, plasma physics, and VLF, very low frequency, you can understand that the spread that's taking place here is a big one in a short period of time. This isn't some long geologic process that we're watching take place right now. This is a day. Here's 36 hours worth of quakes. Here's 48. So we're really flaring up. All the white and pink colored earthquakes since yesterday. Big time increase. And that just covers here in the West Pacific. Taiwan got hit. Over next to Guam got hit. Whole coast of Japan got hit. Central Papua New Guinea got hit. And I haven't even checked the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center yet, which I guess we should go probably check right now. So let's go over to the VAAC. Let's go see who's erupting today. I heard that they've now issued evacuation alerts around Taal volcano over in Philippines. That it's explosive blast they think is coming. So that's, again, reports in the news and reports in the chat room. So I saw them both. Again, I saw the chat room reports and I saw the news reports, so that verifies it to me. That's actually happening. Okay. Suwa Nizijima, Japan, Shiveluch up in Russia. No eruption. Resuspended volcanic ash. Blowing ash, they say. Okay. Karimsky up in Russia. That's actually going. So Shiveluch isn't erupting now, but Karimsky is. Krakatau is going back in Indonesia. Fuego's going in Guatemala. Sanjay's going in Ecuador. There's tall, but it only has a 2,000-foot high ash cloud reported. But the reports are explosive blast coming. We've seen huge blasts from tall in the past, going up to near 50,000 foot high, I think. That was several years ago, but 2,000's nothing. For them to be evacuating, there's something going on. And I would think inflation at the volcano. Again, that's just a guess on my part that there would be inflation or some kind of tilt meters or tilting or whatever. There's a reason that they're actually evacuating more than just a 2,000 foot high blast in Philippines. Reventador in Ecuador, Sudanese Ujima, again, Shiveluch, no eruption, resuspended again, so that's a lot of blowing ash. That's a lot of blowing ash, guys. Mount Etna over in Italy. And is there anybody else that we need to be aware of? Well, we're back. Let's see. Wow, this is still today. Dang. Okay, the number of eruptions for today, for it being somewhat young in the day still, I'm going to say it, that's a fair amount of eruptions. Now, the new eruptions, new volcanoes that are on the list, there aren't that many. There's just Taal. That's the one that we don't normally talk about very much at all. So we don't talk about Taal at all. Over to the west, we got a 5.3 on the plate boundary. Right at India, Nepal border region, we also saw over here to the east, Thailand, Laos got hit. You may remember I mentioned Laos last week. Hardly ever gets hit. Maybe once every year, twice a year, and now it's been hit twice in the past 2 weeks since we mentioned it. Now, it's not that I've got the power of some kind of psychic earthquake machine. Or, no, I don't have psychic power, and I don't have an earthquake machine, okay? How did we know to look at Laos? Well, it's on the edge of the plate boundary. Let me show it to you this way. We'll go back over to the good old USGS plate boundary map over here. There. You see the red line? Now, on the east side of it, last week, there were a series of earthquakes that came out of Indonesia and went right up here. We were looking right in the middle, and I mentioned Myanmar, Laos, Thailand to the east side, and I mentioned China, and we also mentioned over by Nepal. Now, the spot we were watching for the quakes was here to here, and now here we are. It's been hit twice. And again, I'm talking about this one right here. Now, over to the west is the 5.3. You see that one? It's in India, right at the edge of India and Bangladesh. I think that's Bangladesh, yeah. And it's right on the interior side of the subcontinent of India, but it's right along the plate boundary. It's just on the other side, the southern side, if you will. We moved on the east and north side. Now we're moving on the south side. The only thing left to move is over to the west. And look over to the west. We have a big open area across North India going across Nepal. Look where the rings overlap. They overlap on North India and Kashmir. That's the next spot to be hit. Now, the previous push already went across. We saw 5s yesterday go across the plate boundaries. Mid-range 4s to 5 to 4.9. Go down across Iran coming out of Afghanistan. And let me show that to you on the plate boundary. Here. Coming out of here at Afghanistan, going down and around the plate boundary up through Iran. Previously, we had a series of earthquakes along Iran going back down to the Gulf of Aden, prompting me to issue a warning for Iran and for Israel. And Israel has not been hit yet. The Red Sea has remained very quiet while Iran has been big time moving. There's the quake that prompted me to issue the warning. So quake right here at the mouth of the Gulf of Aden down here, 5.7. And I said, 5's up to the north and something very like a 5 or very close to it, upper 4, striking over here by Israel. 2 of the same size quakes on both sides. So far, we've moved on the north side. We got a right on, spot on, 4.9 and a 4.7. If we add them together, it equals 4.947. We'll just round it up. It equals a 5. So we had a 5.7 go in, and a 5 comes out on the north side. We should get a 5 over on the west side over by Israel, and they should both recombine in Turkey. And we should see something similar in size to the 5.7 strike up in Turkey. And I think like 5.5. It shouldn't be that much loss of energy coming around when it recombines. Think of a river. Think of this like a flood, and this is a fork in the river. And the river comes back together up here. Yes, it can get absorbed along the banks of both sides as it goes along, but it's not that much absorption. And so we go from a 5.7 down to a 5.5. But it's not that the 5.7 is causing the 5.5 that's going to be coming up here in the next few days up in Turkey. It's that both earthquakes are caused by the flood of seismic energy. So it's not one earthquake causing the other. I just want everybody to understand that. It's not a domino effect where one quake causes the other. It's a wave that spreads, and then the earthquakes break. That the standing wave that I'm showing here in the tank, it spreads, and then as it spreads, it's dropping off earthquakes along the way. This is the force that's causing the quakes. And a lot of people, even professionals, mistook and still do mistake what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about a progression of quakes, they think I'm talking about one earthquake causing the other. They don't understand that it's a separate force causing the earthquakes. It's like I'm trying to shake them and be like, wake up! Wake up! Okay, anyway, so the next spot that's going to get hit is over here. Now, English Channel, the coast of Normandy. Oui? Well, no. How do you say no in French? I don't know. Nay? I don't know. I don't speak français. But I do see an earthquake right here at the mouth of the English Channel. If I warn right here at the coast of Normandy, and instead we get a quake right here, right up next to the coast of Normandy, that's most likely the quake we're looking for. But I'm right on the edge of being wrong on the magnitude. So while we're within about 200 miles from the English Channel, that the magnitude is a magnitude under. So where's the missing magnitude? It's still trapped across Europe. And we're going to see a new outbreak now spread out behind this, since it's trapped there. We should see a new outbreak go up to Holland. Holland! Aardbeving! Aardbeving! Isn't that earthquake? I don't know either, man. I'm trying, okay? Look. I'm from the Midwest United States. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. I'll come over there. You guys can, put me in some Dutch. I don't know. I don't even know if you guys have what's going on over there. I don't know if you even want foreigners there right now. Americans, I mean. Americans. Let's be specific. Yeah, I don't know if you want Americans there right now. Might still be recovering. Okay. So, earthquakes. We're talking about near 3-ish, 3.5. Should be striking around Holland. And now that the English Channel's been hit. Or right next to the English Channel, the mouth of the English Channel. This is the English Channel, this is the mouth of English Channel, here's coast of Normandy, and we warn right here. I would think North UK, Scotland, still gotta watch. It already got hit once last week. We warned Scotland last week, Scotland got hit last week. And now here we are, and it's gonna happen again, but the only good news I have is that right now, we're dealing with low-level activity. Looks like high-level activity is going to be on its way over to Europe within the next few days. So I want you to think of it like this. Let's go back over to the USGS map. Okay. All the way across here. Oh. There's a better way for me to show it to you. Let's go back to the start of the week. When you see this, you're going to understand why I'm warning you. In Europe. There we go. All right. Here's 4.9 and greater, and the reason I'm showing you 4.9s and greater is because they downgrade a lot of the 5s to be 4.9s. But let me back it out. Okay, do you see it? Let me zoom it in a little. Do you see it? I don't even know if I want to describe it to you. Looks like an eye, doesn't it? Like some kind of oblong, like a pea shape or something. Like a pea pod shape. Okay, that is abnormal. We don't normally see something like this. I don't recall ever seeing something like this before in the 10 years I've been looking online and covering earthquakes. I've seen spreads go up and around the bends of the plates. I've seen spreads go down to New Zealand. We've seen spreads go up and around through Myanmar and all the way over to Europe and the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. We've even seen spreads go all the way around the planet and come back around. But when it comes to this, I have not seen anything like it before. So we're spreading across areas where I technically don't have arrows. So, for instance, these three quakes right here, the 5.3, the 5.3, and the 5.0. Okay, those three quakes are across here, obviously. Now, the whole area is being inundated with some kind of force from down below, all the way across here. Do you see it now on the USGS map? This is the USGS map, even shows what I'm talking about here. That there's something shifting here, which is then going to spread out and away from here and cause major issues internationally in the next several days. And you can see which way it's pointing. Right? Wouldn't you think, to complete this oddball crescent shape, if we got a bunch of deep earthquakes over here on this side of the tank, and the wave is spreading across the tank and going over here and recombining where? Let's go to the USGS map and do it, guys. Again, we're spreading across here in a oval or crescent shape or oval shape, and it's pointing towards, you see it. You see which way it's pointing. It's pointing over towards Europe. So that's the trajectory the wave is overall going to take. And it means big earthquake activity in Europe by the end of the week. And by big, I mean it. So we're looking about a magnitude larger than what we're dealing with right now. So it means South Europe is about ready to get hit with near 6.0 activity. And that's on top of the 5.5 that's going to be coming in here in Turkey. The 5.5 is imminent. The check's in the mail. It's on its way. The previous earthquakes already struck. You see them here marked in pink. It's due. Israel hasn't moved yet. That's the only one waiting to go, I think, before Turkey. And I might be wrong on that. It could be Turkey first, then Israel. But usually it's a progression going across. Now, Europe, we're going to have to watch over here, south of Italy, west of Greece. Let me show you where. Previously, Crete got hit, and we had warned between Crete and Cyprus. But now Turkey's going to be hit over here, where the two plate boundaries come together, and then energy is going to be traveling around up into Italy, out over across west over to the Azores. Also going to go around Romania, but it's all going to be focused right in here. The halfway point between the previous current earthquakes, you see how they all overlap. All the sets of rings overlap right here, southwest coast of Greece. Kind of looks like a witch's face over here. Here, hold on. Pareidolia, right? The Wicked Witch of the West. Even with the hat and everything, okay. Or it's a wicked moon man, you know? No, okay, all right. But we're on the west side of the witch's face, right there. And look what comes together right there. First of all, we're at the Ionian Sea, but we're at the Ionia Range. This thing broke apart a few years ago. And, well, not a few years ago, several years ago. This started to have a swarm of thousands of small earthquakes and moderately sized hundreds of fours. So not just small quakes, it actually was a huge swarm of quakes. And we issued our first big warning for Italy then, for North Italy at the time. And this was up in North Italy. And we issued a warning for a 6 to strike in Italy. And that week, a 6 hit up in North Italy. It had been the first one in many years' time up in North Italy. Then it happened again. A new push came in, but a deep earthquake happened below the Tyrrhenian Sea a couple months later. A few months later, the Tyrrhenian Sea had a deep earthquake. I issued a new warning for Italy, but I issued a warning for a 7 to come into Italy. And the next morning, a 6.9 hit in central Italy. First, the deep earthquake down below Tyrrhenian Sea, deep 5.8, prompting me to issue the warning for a shallow 6.8 to 7.0 earthquake, one magnitude larger. The next morning is 6.9 hits. Oh, and by the way, when I put out that warning, they actually got it, and people who lived there took it to their local mayor, and they told their town, and everybody was sleeping in their cars. They were waiting for the earthquake to hit, and there were no fatalities from the 7 that hit there. Because they knew to watch for it. And then they thanked me on the news, no less. Thank you, Dutch Since, for issuing the earthquake warning, she said. I was like, wow. That was on BBC all day long, too. They interviewed her twice or 3 times, and she said it each time, and they allowed it to air. Yeah. All right, so let's recap. New deep earthquakes are taking place. A spread of 5s is currently going across the whole West Pacific, and it's making a very odd oval shape that points over towards Europe. Additionally, on the sides of that, we have new deep earthquakes up here in Japan, which indicate that the plate is getting ready to shift overall. Majorly deep 5s, multiple deep 5s means shallow 6s, and maybe even larger, are incoming in the next few days. Now, we can determine the spots to watch as the spots between our current sets of 5s. We can look at the 4s too if we need to, but between our current sets of 5s can do it, last 48 hours, or let's add in the 4s. If we add in the 4s, you're going to see the rings overlap on Philippines, where Taal Volcano just had its new warning issued for a blast to take place, and they're evacuating people. Again, the middle fulcrum point. Think of this as a balance point, or again, just think of the standing wave. This is the middle point between two of the waves, and a new wave is coming in. Get ready to hammer in right underneath. Same with over on the east side, where the rings overlap. Here on the Izu Ridge, I know this doesn't really matter to anybody because nobody really lives out here. That's Nishinoshima Volcano right there. Are we going to see Nishinoshima blow? Are we going to see a new noteworthy earthquake break out there? I mean, either way, again, like I said, nobody lives out there. I don't think it'll matter to anybody except for me, or maybe the people who are paying attention to earthquake forecasting. Now, if it's a huge earthquake, they'll care because then they'll have to deal with a wave. Now, I'm thinking it's going to be in the 6 range. So what we're going to be dealing with here, most likely, is a flurry of 6s. We're dealing with the X-class flare and the charged particles coming into Earth, going down, disturbing the core. The core then starts to vibrate, shoots up the VLF. The VLF vibrates like a bass speaker, basically, out of the core of the Earth, and it comes up vertically, the wave coming up, and then it spreads up, out, and away, like a lightning bolt, or like a tree spreading its branches. All right, so we're getting ready to go through it. The spots where we watch are where our rings overlap, and all the rings overlap right here on Tokyo. We'll show you where it is on the USGS map. Tokyo's about to get hit, new 6, right where the H-shaped bend in the plate comes across, probably on the north side. Over to the west, like I said, we watch 2 directions from this deep quake here. So we have to watch China. We have to watch right over here at the Tibet, wait, is that Mongolia? The Mongolia-China border region, which is right through here, and right at the tip of our arrows. And 6 is likely there as well. Where else do we watch? Well, in the West Pacific, my strikeout location. Last week, looking for a 7.5, all we got, Langila and Begana volcanoes erupted here. Oh, and Katovar. 3 volcanoes erupted through here instead of an eruption, or instead of a big earthquake. We got eruptions. Okay, well we hadn't seen Katovar on the list in weeks, if not months. Same with Begana and Langila. To get them all 3 in a week? At the time where I strike out for a 7.5. I don't know. I mean, I don't forecast eruptions, or maybe I should. But this is the overlap point yet once again. But this time I'm going to add in the volcanoes there. Let's watch for them. Why not? Let's watch to see if the rare eruptions at Katovar, Langila, Begana, and any of the others, if they increase, or if there's any more volcanoes that show up. So either those 3 just go through the roof, or maybe in the middle of there. Maybe, again, this is primitive forecasting for volcanoes, but it's a fulcrum point. The wave's going to come up underneath there. I thought it was going to break last week with a 7.5, instead 3 eruptions. Over to the west, there's a huge, open, silent zone. And we have an eruption going on right here at Mount Krakatau. We have an eruption going on right here at Mount right here at Mount Semeru. And we have an eruption going on up here at Mount Sinabung. So Sinabung, Krakatau, Semeru. Wouldn't you say the spacing on that is somewhat equally spaced across the whole area? And that we go across the whole silent area, 3 erupting volcanoes. It's not a coincidence, but there's going to be a new break that takes place in the middle of here, in between where the volcanoes are erupting. So 1, 2, 3, I would look in between all 3, and that puts us right down here at Krakatau. Krakatau is about to get hit with a new quake, and it's probably going to be in the 6 range just like the other 2 up to the north. So China, Japan, Indonesia, all 3 do. And I just told you the spots to watch. Oh, well, you know what? There's a 4th location. I'm sorry. Izu Ridge. So that's going to be 4 6s. Plus, I don't know in the middle. And I'm saying I don't know because, again, if it's volcanic, I'll just start adding volcanoes to my forecast list. Oh, it's going to get me in so much trouble with the volcanologist guys. I don't want to pick any more fights. Come on, man. Can we just get along? Okay, now, recapping hammering action spreads over to the east. It doesn't just go over to Europe. The weird shape is pointing towards Europe, and I showed that to you, but I'll show it to you again right now just so you can see it. This giant oval shape of fives going out towards Europe. But we go across. We go across to Central America and South America, where the only 6 of the week so far are struck. And the spread took place as expected over the past 2 days, down at our letter X's. You would have had to have caught my live updates over on Twitch to hear about this, but we warned the South Sandwich Islands, and we warned the tip of the arrow. I know. Nobody lives down there. Nobody cares. There's an X in between the two. Guess who's going to get hit next? That fulcrum point again, that middle point. Think of a wave peak here, and a wave peak here, and the valleys in between. And then the next wave that comes in, the wave will come up here. And there'll be 2 valleys where the 2 previous quakes were. Think of it like that. And this is the next one to get hit with something bigger than what's on both sides. On one side, 5.1. On the other, 5.0. I'm sorry. 5.1 and a 5.0. And a 5.0 and a 4.7. It's 2 of the same sized series of quakes on either side. It's like a balancing scale. Or the standing wave. So that already happened. The 2 white-colored earthquakes down there happened today. And that's after the 6 struck on the coast right here at Chile 2 days ago. Keep in mind, Novato State, Chilean is erupting right where it says travels underneath. Travels underneath point, erupting volcano. As we go to the north, we have a new moderately deep earthquake right at the Chile, Bolivia, South Peru border. And right on the north side of there, we have a letter V. Sabancaya volcano is erupting there. Going further to the north, up here in the middle of Ecuador, we have a 4.3, 4.0 earthquake striking, and we have 2 erupting volcanoes here in Ecuador. That's Sanjay and Reventador. Going further to the north, we have another 4.3. Oh, well, they downgraded it to a 4.2. Same size quake, 4.2, 4.5, striking right in the middle of Colombia. And we have Nevado del Ruiz volcano erupting in Colombia. So let's recap. Volcano erupting, earthquake next to it. 2 volcanoes erupting, earthquake next to it. Earthquake next to the other volcano erupting here. And at our travels underneath point, another erupting volcano. That's an increase from where we were. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 erupting across South America right now. Going up to the north, you got to remember what happened here in Nicaragua. First of all, a new earthquake just struck there next to Costa Rica, but Nicaragua had Telica volcano show back up on the list this past week, and it's never on the list. So Telica's erupting pretty much right now. I wouldn't be surprised if the new earthquake right there is related to a new blast that'll be on the list from Telica. Telica? Okay, whatever. Fuego is erupting here in Guatemala. Popocatépetl is erupting there in Mexico. 1, 2, 3. Add into the 5 to the south, that's 8 total eruptions that are being warned about for the pilots, for ash clouds, across the East Pacific. And the spread goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The spacing is pretty equal on the volcanoes. Again, we go there to here to here to here to here to here down to here. And that the spacing on the volcanoes might even be due to the standing waves that form across the plate boundaries. It could be. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying it's a possibility. The spread of earthquakes is following the plate boundaries over on the east side of the Pacific. The red lines again from the USGS. Over here. But it's trying to go around the plate. This VLF wave, instead of going through the plate, it tries to go around the plate. It'll follow the craton edges around the plate as opposed to brute force hammering across it. And that's how we get earthquakes that go from the coast of Chile down around and underneath and end up down here at the edge of the plate boundary at the South Sandwich Islands, down here. That energy comes down, goes underneath, and tries to escape out. And right where it goes down and escapes out, there's a volcano getting compressed there, and it erupts. That the magma chamber is getting compressed by this VLF wave of some kind, and it's causing an eruption. Okay, finally, United States. Hey, you've been waiting a long time for this. Check it out, guys. Hawaii. Aloha, Mr. Hand. Mr. Dutch, no pizza ordering and no smoking in the back of the classroom, guys. I'll call your parents. I'll straight up call your parents. I'll take that. I'll confiscate that for evidence, too. You'll never see it again. How about a new series of earthquakes off to the west side of the Big Island after a previous 5.1 struck up on the north side of the island? And this all follows major swarm activity in other fours that hit across the central part of Hawaii's Big Island last week and the week before. Lines of earthquakes going across the central part of the Big Island. Seriously, right across the middle. And then a ring of quakes. You would have had to have caught this all live in my updates. That's why you had to go watch on Twitch. But a ring of quakes around the Middle East rift zone, prompting me to issue a warning this past week, not even 6 days ago, for new 5.0 range activity to come to Hawaii. And I told you all where to watch. I told you to watch back up the chain that connects in up to Kamchatka. And if you see an increase in blasts or earthquakes up here, volcanic blasts or earthquakes, that you watch down and over for Hawaii to get hit. And what happened? Well, Sarichiv Peak erupted up here. Never had to talk about it before on the list, I don't recall. If I did, maybe once. So it never erupts. Sarichiv Peak was on the list. Ebico volcano. Shivalush did erupt. Not resuspended ash. It was an actual eruption. And we currently have, oh boy. I think that's it. Shivalush. Oh, Kamchatka. We have Karimsky. Sorry. Man, it's like a jumbled mess of Russian names up in my head when it comes to this dang frickin' peninsula. There's so many. Shivalush, Karimsky, Bezimiani, Ebico. Okay, those are just 4 I can remember. But anyway, 3 erupting volcanoes up here, plus a previous 5. And that happened several days ago. I can get that on here. There is the 5 that happened right here. So this 5 happened. When it did, it goes up, down, over. The wave travels. It didn't stop there, though. The wave went all the way across over to the 5.7. Now, you can trace this back. Watch this. Fracture zone connects to Hawaii. Hawaii connects back up the chain. Chain connects back up to here. Push came from here. So the push came from here. It went up, down, over, across, over, and down. And these 2 earthquakes, the 5.3 and the 5.7, they happened first. Then Hawaii filled in the middle point. And wouldn't you say Hawaii is the middle point in between the 2 earthquakes if you go around the bends of the plate that I just showed you that way? That the standing wave went up and a path of least resistance escaped out, down, over, across, over, and it bounced around. And then Hawaii breaks in the middle. That's what happened. And that's what I warned for several days ago. And here we are now, and it's happened again. So I want to see where the new spot is moving out in the ocean to the west. Are you curious? And the spot on the north side, I'm going to show you what's up there too. Don't worry, we're going to look up all these locations. But man, wait till you see what's there. Up on the north side. Up on the north side of the Big Island, there's something there. I don't know what's out west here. I got to go look. Oh. Hey, somebody never had to. How many times have I ever talked about this? Mahu Kona. The Pleistocene Mahu Kona Seamount lies between the islands of Hawaii and Kahului, northwest of Hualalai volcano. The distinct cone is about 4 kilometers in diameter. Yeah. Okay, that's just this, Mahu Kona. Look what's right next to it. This one. Okay, this is Mahu Kona, but come on. All of these are under seamount volcanoes that spread out. That's just the one they have marked. It's a huge volcanic field. That's what's right there. So why does it matter? Well, let me show you what was on the north side of the island where it got hit. Here, yesterday, right out here in the ocean. You see this? This is a spot that supposedly collapsed several hundred years ago and caused tsunamis to go out across the Pacific that inundated Japan and the west coast of the United States, and it put 50 to 100-foot waves all the way around the Big Island itself when this collapsed and slid down. And there's other spots where they've had them happen too, but this was one spot where you can actually see what's left over of the remnants of the huge slide that took place. Now that came from Kohala, the Kohala volcanic field. And these are old craters here, which you can see. I hope you can see these. These old craters go right down to the ocean. They're covered in trees. Again, that's how old these are. So most people wouldn't even think about going up to check these out. If you're in Hawaii, you probably don't even, if you're a tourist, you wouldn't even think to go look. But just right down the road, there's more. Oh, that's where the radar tower is. Good place to put it. Goes out into the ocean here, and they kind of trail off. You can see some of the craters out here along the ridge. But you can trace that back, and again, this whole thing is where the earthquake struck yesterday, the 5.1, or a day and a half ago. Now, out here on the west side, at the other volcanic seamount, we get a series of 4s. So what's causing all the movement, eh? Well, guys, you're at the tail end of the wave tank before it goes over to the east. Take a look at it one more time. Here's the Hawaiian island chain. It goes back up to Kamchatka up here to the north, where you get pushes that come in and the wave starts to spread down this chain. Once it gets to Hawaii, it branches off. Hawaiian island chain branches off over to the east. And it has a little dead end there where the Big Island is. Notice how it's just beyond the fracture zone to the east. So think of this like a wave tank that comes down and it connects over here, but you're at a reflection point just beyond it. And so you reflect back and forth across the island, which then causes a standing wave to get caught up in the island, in the magma chambers themselves. Once the standing wave gets caught up in the island, in the magma chambers, it starts hammering into the magma. Guess what happens? Earthquakes increase. And they spread out. The pressure associated with that spreads out to all the volcanoes in the area. And if there are weak points that are there that are predisposed to move, guess what? They move. Does it cause eruptive activity? Yes, if the push is big enough. And right now we're dealing with an incoming X-class flare and multiple new deep earthquakes. Man, I hate to even say it. We might. This is a might. So I'm not going to issue a forecast for it. But this week, we might see some new volcanic activity back at the Middle East Rift Zone at Kilauea. Maybe some kind of small explosive blast or something. The other volcanoes are going. The deep earthquakes are going through the roof. The spreads are happening across the West Pacific. I had to issue a warning for Europe. And certainly, we have to watch going over to the United States. So that means Hawaii. That means Alaska. That means a push is coming from over here, and it's going to be going up over into Alaska. It's going to be coming down across the chain and go dead end into Hawaii. Now that chain, the undersea mount chain, goes down past Hawaii. Let me zoom in on it. Makes a V shape here, or a Y shape, and it goes down this way. Now, this is Tamu Massif on this side. This is Hawaii on this side. Tamu Massif is the largest undersea mount volcano on the planet, I think. Still, they may have found another one, but it's the largest I know of. And then the largest shield volcano on the planet on the surface is Mauna Loa. And they're about the same distance. I already measured it. I don't exactly remember what it is, but they're about the same distance on either side of this. Now, this undersea mount ridge makes a crescent shape, and it goes down, over, and connects down into Peru, where our other earthquake was. But you'll see the fracture zones that go east and west that extend off of it over to the east, and they're equally spaced, indicating an equal distribution of force across this undersea mount chain, this giant letter C shape undersea mount chain, equal distribution across it, creating the fracture zones to begin with. Now, they all point back to a spot over here where there's a bunch of rising undersea mounts, volcanoes and islands. So there's rising that's happening from below down here, and it spreads across and goes over here. But it focuses in on Central America if it's coming from this direction. You see all the fracture zones go into Central America. There's only 2 that go into the United States. Most of our energy comes from the north. Hence my new warning now for Alaska. 6-ish, let's say 6.1, low end 6. But maybe bigger than Japan even. But the combined total is going to be coming over here, striking at the peninsula next to Kodiak, where all the rings overlap. Now there's another spot where a couple hundred rings overlap, but these are all small quakes. They all overlap on Anchorage. So secondary warned location, Anchorage. First warned location, Kodiak. And I'm going with Kodiak. I think that's going to be the one. That's where all the bigger rings overlap. That's where the two sets. If this is a set of quakes of a bunch of small quakes on land, and this is a set of bigger quakes out in the ocean following the plate boundary, we find the halfway point between the two following the plate boundary. Let's go back over to the plate boundary map from the USGS, right out here. Okie dokie. Okay, now, Hawaii. We might be seeing some kind of volcanic activity this week. Earthquake-wise, I'm going to keep it at, well, actually, hold on. We have to look between the two sets of quakes here now. Hold on. We got to turn down the rings. This is just for my Hawaiian viewers. Okay, Captain Cook. This is pretty easy, actually, to do. So, just connect the dots between these three sets of quakes. It makes a giant, what, like triangle shape or whatever. And Captain Cook's on the south side, right here in the middle, Hualalai. So from Captain Cook to Hualalai, southeast side is the Mauna Loa flank. That brown splotch. You know what? Let's go over to Google Earth. Okay, that's better. Hualalai, Mauna Loa, out to the 4-point whatever earthquake. So we watch here, and let me zoom in and show you. Turn on our borders and labels. There's Captain Cook, and here's Hualalai. Let's watch right through here, and the magnitude should be between 4.2 and 5.2. Now, how am I coming to that determination? Some of the energy is escaping out over towards Mexico, guys. Again, the wave already went over there. We got a 5.7. But it reflected back, and we got the 5 reflected back. But it's going to reflect back again, and the new halfway point is going to get hit. Well, halfway point. The triangulated point. It's a point between three spots that are moving, right? So the triangulated point would be in Captain Cook up to Hualalai down to the the west side of Mauna Loa. Man, I'm getting backwards flipped up here. Now, let's go into the continental United States, which the continental U.S. always receives the energy last. The rest of the planet gets it. It goes from here over towards Europe. It goes from here up to Japan. It goes from here over to Central and South America. And it goes from here up through Japan, around through Kamchatka, over through Alaska, down to the United States. So we are the last to receive this flow of energy. And the standing wave, once it gets to us, it intersects up here in the northwest. Again, it's coming in from the northwest. Let me show you what's there. Comes into the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. And look which way the jagged edges of the Pacific plate are even shaped to begin with. The same direction the energy is coming in from to begin with. From northwest to southeast. And all these little jagged edges are like saw teeth on the edge of the Pacific plate. And they push into the remnants of the old plate here, the Juan de Fuca, which then pushes into North America. So pressure comes in out in the ocean, pushes in, and goes into land. And we see vibrations when that happens. They're called tremors. And the tremors show up on the tremor map sometimes when it's working or on. But there's nothing to worry about because the tremor map shows absolutely nothing. Oh no, it's off again, man. If the plate ever actually stopped shifting, like there was zero, like for real, I would be packing my stuff and signing up for the Mars journey. Yeah, that we'd be dealing with the end of the world scenario where the plates have stopped moving entirely. There should be some every day, and so they don't have any reported yesterday. Something's wrong, straight up. It's off. Whatever. I bet there's hundreds, if not thousands, happening today. Why wouldn't there be? The whole plate shifting around it. We got 4s over to the east on the edge of the Craton in Montana and Yellowstone. Yellowstone was swarming itself with earthquakes. Not tremors. Not tremors from some kind of vibration of the magma. We're talking about actual breaks in the plate. This 4.1 coming in next to where that big split in the ground formed a few years ago that they tried to blame on water. Do you remember this? They tried to blame the big split fissures that formed in the ground at Bighorn Mountain on like some kind of stream or something. And then it finally, geologists went out there. This was in media and talking heads. They're professionals who all were trying to deny that there was anything going on there. And it turns out it was. It was a mountain that split in half. It went on for a mile or more, and it wasn't any. It was at the top of a mountain coming down. It was not from water. It was totally dry. No erosion. It split open. The plate shifted slightly. The edge of the craton did. And the Bighorn Mountains, over here in Wyoming, got hit by a 4 right next to it. Let me show it to you. There. So the 4.1 hit there. Then, the next morning, a 4.1 hit right behind it. But both are on the edge of the craton. That's indisputable. So 2 4.1s indicates that the edge of the craton's shifting, but come on, we know where the energy's pushing in from. Look at the arrows. It's coming in from the Juan de Fuca, which now they've turned off the tremor map. You know why they turn it off? You can only have one slow slip a year. And they already had it. So, you got more than one slow slip a year, and you start to get hundreds of tremors per day, and it's an inconvenient thing, and, off. I'm serious. I'm completely serious. This is the world of seismology, not the world of meteorology. Could you imagine if your weatherman or whatever on TV was going and dumping out the rain gauge to make it look like there was less rain because they had said the month of July only has a certain amount of rain statistically, and because there's only, there's more than that coming in, and they said it wouldn't, and it does, and they go out and tilt out the rain gauge. Imagine if they did that. Do they do that? Maybe they do. Let's go and look at the 24-hour feed here. This is now, wait, here we go. 1 day, 0.0 and greater. Now, the reason I look at 1 day, it gives us a good idea of the area that's moving now on the West Coast, and it'll let us know the areas that are getting ready to move. But there's something else I actually need to consult before we even go into the West Coast. First of all, this is the number of quakes, so you can see where the quakes are. We're coming out of Washington with 2 quakes, and we're going down into Idaho over to Yellowstone. Like I said, swarming in Yellowstone Park. And normally there's hundreds of tremors per day at Yellowstone. That's normal. But they're not earthquakes. This is actual faulting that's taking place, actual breaking that's taking, earthquake activity above Yellowstone. But it's coming in from the northwest. It makes a trajectory to the northwest to the southeast, wouldn't you say? Just overall, northwest, southeast, especially on these coming out of Montana, going down into Yellowstone. Certainly across Yellowstone itself, it's going slightly northwest to southeast. Now, you're going to hear that a lot for the rest of the update, because the rest of the earthquakes across all of California are a connect-the-dots game of northwest to southeast, following the San Andreas Fault, going down off the coast of Santa Cruz Island. But you'll also see the same thing is going on a microcosm on a smaller level across California East Coast, or the East Coast, California eastern border meeting up with Nevada. So on the West Coast, we have a series of diagonal lines of earthquakes that go down along it, whether it's at the border of California, Nevada, or along the ocean, or if it's coming in from the northwest, which indicates that the push is coming from the northwest. Plain and simple. And then the energy goes down across the edge of the craton to the central southern portion of the plate, the way it's pushing to. So it's pushing from the northwest, and it's pushing down to the east-southeast. Who gets hit? East-southeast, down at Texas, edge of the craton. And it's all drill points down here that are getting hit, down on the edge of the craton to the east. So Mother Nature's pushing from up north, west, and we're sitting down here waiting to catch it with all those drill points down on the edge of the craton. And I can look up each one of these quakes down in Texas, Oklahoma, and we're going to go right in on an oil well for every single one of them. You guys can do it if you need to. If you do not believe me, if you're a new viewer, you can go look it up yourself. I'm not going to show you, prove myself to you anymore. You guys can look it up if you need to. It takes a lot of time to look up the wells, too. Well, here, let me show you. Dang it. There's always some new person. Show somebody. Nordheim, Texas. You grab the coordinates from the USGS and you go put them in on Google Earth especially. This is so you can make place marks if you need to remember where they are. And we hit search. So coordinates from USGS, put them in on Google Earth, hit search. This is going to take us down into Texas. Okay, right next to the earthquake epicenter are a series of tanks, pumps, jacks, and pipelines. And they connect with other pads which also have tanks, pumps, jacks, and pipelines. We're dealing with oil and gas. And look how many there are. All these little white cutouts in the ground are different oil wells. They're not houses. You see how many there are? Every one of these is an oil well. I'll prove that to you if you need me to. I'm from the Show Me state of Missouri, where we prove everything. So you see how many there are. All the little white squares are different oil wells, and they go on and on and on and on and on through whole counties. And it's drilled out, and because it's drilled out on the edge of the craton, it's vulnerable as energy's coming across it, as the wave, the standing wave. One more time, as the standing wave spreading across, you're going to drill into the stone that the wave is going through. It's obvious it's going to get hit. Now, the size earthquakes tend to be the same size that strikes on the West Coast that tend to go over to the Midwest, within a hair of a point of each other. Now, the bigger the movement, if let's say we get a 7 out on the West Coast, we don't normally see a 7 in the mid portion of the plate. Instead, we see the whole plate move over to the East Coast, with a bunch of smaller earthquakes that go all the way up to Maine and Quebec, even out to Newfoundland and beyond. If there's a big push on the West Coast, like what happened on July 4th 3 years ago. July 4th, 2018, boom, huge earthquake, California. Within the week, 4s went all the way across the plate. Within 7 or 10 days? Within 10 days of the 7.0 in Ridgecrest, California, a 4 struck over at the California-Nevada border, a 4 struck over in Oklahoma, and a 4 struck up at Quebec. So 4s went across the plate after a 7 pushed. But we've seen in the past 5s strike on the West Coast. 12 hours later, 5s strike in Oklahoma. So sometimes the energy can be completely maintained going across that distance. Other times it takes a step down, depending on if it has to go through the edge of the craton, or does it just go beeline in from the northwest? If it goes down through California, it has to go through the edge of the craton. Go down through Texas, come back up into Oklahoma, and it loses a little energy when it does that, but it also drops off hot spots that the weather satellite can pick up, and we can now see them thanks to the new GOES satellite. And this is just amazing because the hot spots are some kind of electromagnetic phenomenon that's showing up above the ground but below the weather satellite. So we're dealing with a lot of space in between there, guys. We're dealing from anywhere at ground level all the way up to the ionosphere that this could be taking place. But the weather satellite's picking it up, and let me get them all turned on here so we can see them. And these hot spots are showing up. The weather satellite filters them out, doesn't know what to make of it. They're as hot as fire, or hotter. So look at all the orange spots that were from yesterday. And look at today. Look where they're centered. They're centered down on the coast of Mexico and the Gulf of California. And there's just a small distribution of hotspots currently, and it's 1 p.m. Central or West Coast time, 3 p.m. Central. So there's very few hotspots today reported across the whole country. Yesterday it was just an insane, well, you see the spread. So today it looks like they're up in Idaho, going around over into Yellowstone. Well, that's pretty ironic, isn't it? Take a look at it. Idaho over to Yellowstone. Idaho over to Yellowstone. They match. Let's go down to the south. Let's go down to Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. In between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake, we have a giant oval shape. This giant oval shape, I've contended many times in the past, is the remnant of an ancient caldera for a supervolcano. It is lined with its own volcanoes. And there are 2 geothermal fields on either side of it, equally spaced. 2 folded basins, the lakes themselves, and this. Now this gets earthquakes around the outside edge of it and going into the middle of it. This gets hot spots around the outside edge of it, going into the middle of it. This gets actual fires breaking around the outside edge of this. and going into the middle of it. Now we're dealing with new hotspots. Here again today. How many years in a row am I going to be at the same spot with a fire hotspot picking up between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake on this giant oval that I postulated 5 years ago at this point is volcanic related, and it keeps getting hit with hotspots and earthquakes over and over and over and over. And that's where the new set of quakes was yesterday. Now we shifted down to the east-southeast. We went down to the nuclear test sites. Let's go take a look. Indian Springs. Did you hear me? The nuke sites. Indiana Jones, we were just talking about earlier today. I said I'm going to get my refrigerator. Gonna get in the fridge, guys. You know, protect yourself from the nuke. You can get in the fridge. Well, wait. Oh, hold on. Just one hot second. We've got a bunch of hot spots there on the nuclear test site. These are the underground nuke sites. Every crater here, off limits to the public completely. And take a look at it, guys. U.S. nuke Operation Ferret Prime, just one example, 207 kilotons, or is that 20.7? Either way, we're talking April 5th, 1963. That's just one example of many. But the weather satellite's picking up a bunch of hotspots there from yesterday. Take a look at it. Today, no hotspots, but earthquakes instead. So yesterday there were hotspots. Today there are earthquakes. Electromagnetic phenomenon showing up before an earthquake strikes. The line of quakes coming down along the coast goes back up to this big stack at a place called Geysers. The Geysers of California. Gee, I wonder what's there. I don't know. The place is called Geyserville. It must be famous for statues or something. No, there's geysers there. There's lots of geysers, and they've drilled into the sides of the hills to get steam. They inject water, actually. Sewage. Human sewage from your house. No joke. They inject that down in the ground, leave the nasties in the ground. The steam steams off, comes up, turns to turbines, provide power for the air. Turbines. The turbines. Only in California, guys. Okay. So, line of quakes going from that volcano, following through the Bay Area of San Francisco, and then going all the way down and dead ending right here along the San Andreas. We'll talk about the rest down along the coast in a second, but why are we dead ending on the San Andreas? Why aren't we carrying on down south on the San Andreas? Cholame, California. Colami. That's Cholame. We call it Cholame here in Missouri. Cholame, California. No, my name's Blaine. I'm from Colami, California. Oh, my name's Jeeves. I'm sorry, Jeeves Blaine from Colami. Okay, now here we are. We've got a line. Here's the San Andreas, okay? And we're coming down to Colame, and we're jumping over to Avenal, but all of this is drilled tens of thousands of times. And I can just show it to you. We can just randomly zoom in on the oil wells. And again, it speaks for itself. How many drill points are here. There's a little solar farm in perspective. But that's clean energy next to dirty. Look how much dirty there is. All those wells. Now, that's just where they start. This is just where they start. The earthquake goes down to where the drill points start. They're all across all of this. All of this is drilled. Okay? So where the drill points start next to the San Andreas, that's where the earthquakes go down to. And then the earthquakes pick back up where the drill points sort of putter out down at the south tip of the valley. Let me show you. Down by Arvin. So on the south side of the valley, there's tens of thousands of more, and then it just goes into no wells once you get south of this curve in the south bend of the valley here. Okay, here's the earthquake, and our oil patch comes right down through here. These are all oil wells. Look how many there are. Do you see? Hopefully you can. If not, full screen it. I'll zoom in a little bit more. There. Okay. Now this whole thing is drilled. It goes through town, around town, across here, and carries on down to the east by southeast through the farmers' fields right here. Well, they have a solar farm there too, but the solar is just clean offset to tax credit in California to make up for this. And then we keep on going, and the oil wells carry on down through the deserts. So let me show you. South side, down here, oil wells. And we carry on over to the west, more. And then they go back to the farmers' fields this way, up to the west-northwest, and meet up with hundreds of thousands, actually, hold on, of wells. And this is the San Andreas. Do you understand what I'm saying now? Let me go back and show you one more time. Line of quakes comes down the San Andreas. Drill points start here. They go down, around, and back up in a letter J shape. The earthquakes pick back up on the south side of that. So it's like facilitating the flow going across the valley. So what about down to the south then? Well, let's go look. Isla Vista, California. Beautiful area along the coast here. Oh man, just incredible. Oh, I've got family that used to live down there. I don't know where they moved now. They used to live right along here. But I could see probably why they moved. Because look where the oil wells are now. So now when you look offshore, you get to see a big set of rigs out there. Hey, wait a second. Hold on. Oh, dude. Dude. Look. Look. Oh, no. Dude, I hate finding stuff like this. Oh, man. Okay. The aerial photography is showing us an oil slick coming off of the oil platform here. Now, I don't know my imagery date, per se. Imagery date, 2/28/2021, this year, February. February of this year, this thing's putting off a sheen, coming off of it, going out into the dang ocean. Guys, come on, man. Why would it take me to find this shit? Are you serious? Dude, I'm sick of being the only person who knows how to look anything up. What the hell is going on? What kind of bizarro world am I? How many of these other ones are doing it? This one's not doing it. This one's not doing it. That one's not doing it. That one's not doing it. All right? I mean, you can't tell me that it's like some normal thing for the oil out there to be coming out of the dang platform. Oh, man. What are we going to even do about that? Okay, so you got an earthquake next to it. Gee, got an earthquake next to it. You got an oil slick coming from it in February. I wonder if they're related. Dutch, how dare you? Look, man, I just find this shit. I don't even want to cover it. Flores, Las Flores, the flowers of California. Pardon my language, but I get a little frustrated. Come on, think about it, man. Takes Dutch since to find an oil slick? Are you serious? Come on, man. I draw the line there. I got my hands full already. Halliburton's already hates me, man. Okay, Santa Monica Canyon. Is there anything here that I need to know about? Oh, of course. Well, we need to measure and see how far it is, because I look 6 to 10 miles. If this is over 6 to 10, I'm not even going to bother. Yeah, it's 26 kilometers. In miles, it's 16. All right. Man, it's just a little bit. This is the oil patch here at Baldwin Hills. We're right offshore from it, but I look 6 to 10. So I would think this is fault zone related, unless there's some nearby fault or some nearby drilling that I just don't know about. Look at the refineries that are here. Now, these refineries used to be their own oil wells a long time ago, like 100 to 150 years ago. This was all drilled. But now look at it. It's nothing. Look at how much electrical there. Look at all the electrical going on here. My goodness. Well, we know about electricity-induced earthquake activity. And with the sun doing its solar right now with the X-class flare bombarding Earth, North and South Pole, charged particles, the whole bit, that we definitely need to watch for the power grid, not for the failure, for earthquakes and hotspots to start following the dang power grid. Watch for that. Let's go over to Fillmore and go see what's there. Go look at this quake 1.6. We got to do this for almost all the small quakes so that we can see what's moving and then we can determine areas to watch next. Fillmore, what's up here? Well, it's a mountain peak. Okay. Let's see. Let's go turn on all of our place marks. I know I've covered this area before. I just need to get some place marks turned on so we can... Yeah, there we go. No biggie. Hey, it must just be chance, Dutch. All these oil pumping operations, they just must be everywhere. That's it. There's oil pumping operations everywhere, Dutch. No, they're not. Look, we've got another series of earthquakes right next to an oil patch that goes right south of the quake. I look 6 to 10 miles because they can drill by several miles out at an angle. So let's just get a measurement, see how far we are from the nearest patch. Well, we're 10 miles from the nearest patch, and we could go even down south. We might even have some going up into the hills here. Again, I don't know if there are, but I certainly know there are some right over to the west. I've got them marked. So they go across here, down to here, back over to here. Would make sense that there's probably a few through here that I'm just not knowing where they are. I'll have to go look more, but again, we're right on the edge. I look 6 to 10 for a reason because they can drill that far. And then, of course, there's an earthquake related. Weren't there some oil wells over here next to Castaic Lake? I couldn't believe it. Right next to the dam, a bunch of oil wells. And then earthquakes and hotspots. Yeah. Wait. Yeah. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 on one pad alone. Oil wells. Right next to the dam. That's not for pumping out water either, guys. That's for oil and gas. And the oil patch goes all the way across the hillside over here. And I thought that was a little weird that we're having fires break out there and that earthquakes tend to go to that point. So, 2 of the same size quakes. One directly next to an oil pumping operation. The other right on the fringe outside edge of it going down to the coast. The third up there right next to an oil well, which is a offshore platform that's leaking oil. This 1.1 on the bottom or southeast side of an oil pumping operation, and this 1.8 right next to the other oil pumping operation. All of this right here. Now let's go down here on the San Andreas and go look up the 1.2 at Vincent, California. Go see what's there. Starting to see a pattern of weak points getting hit, whether they're volcanoes or oil wells, gas or geothermal. Doesn't matter that they're all weak points in the plate that are predisposed to get hit as this wave travels across it. What do we have going on right here? Oh, nothing big. Just one of the biggest electrical operations I've ever seen. Where is the power being generated for that? We'd have to follow the high voltage power lines back to where they're generating this power. That is crazy. That's huge. Right next to it. Please. Wow. Where are the power lines coming in for that? Where are they going to? Where are they coming from? Let's trace them. A little hard to see. A little hard to see there. A little hard to see, Dutch. Trace it back to the nuclear power plant. With rows like this, I would think it would go back. Look how many there are. I'm serious. Do you see all the lines across here? With that many, I would think it would be going to a nuke power plant. But I don't think you have any, do you? Not in Southern California. They wouldn't be that stupid to put a big nuclear power plant down in Southern California, would they? Would they? Well, Dutch. You know, back in the 1950s and 60s, Dutch, they didn't have the understanding they do now about seismic. So, you know, when they built the nuclear reactor down at San Onofre, you know. Okay, Jeeves. You're the egghead, not me, man. I'm just here reporting on quakes. I'm just the discoverer of earthquake forecasting. I'm not an egghead. I'm Rain Man. There's a difference. So up here at the California-Nevada border, we're at Long Valley Caldera Supervolcano and Monte Cristo Hills Volcanic Buttes on both sides of the border. Already showed you the nuke test sites. And down here, Ridgecrest, China Lake. It's been moving for 3 years since our 7.0, the biggest earthquake in 20 years. In California, all of California, hit here 3 years ago. And it's been moving every day since. And it flares up when new pushes come in. Now, luckily, we haven't seen it go back up into the 6 range at all in the last 2 years. So that's good news as well. But right now, we are flirting around with big activity due up to the north. I've issued a warning. Today is the last day of the warning for the Northwest for a 5 to strike right in the middle of where the arrow is. And instead, the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network shuts off the old tremor map again. I don't know about all that. Consider they came after me and tried to get my fundraiser shut down. Their director tried to get me put in jail. I'm going to have to say that the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network's got a problem with me. And that they're aware of what I do because they're so butthurt and so outspoken about it. That when they turn it off, when I'm issuing a warning and all of a sudden it maybe starts to vibrate a little and they turn it off. I don't know. It just starts to look shady or something. I mean, if I did it, if they were issuing warnings and I was the one controlling the tremors and all of a sudden they issue a warning and all of a sudden I turn it off or it goes off. We have a technical error. Yeah. We got a technical, got some technical going on. Yeah. I mean, you guys would all laugh at me and call me a fake and say I was hiding the data and okay. Yeah. The plate stopped shifting. That's what happened. It'll pick back up tomorrow. Don't worry. I hear Dutch Sense is speaking about it. We better turn that shit back on right now. Anything else? So, 5 due, today's last day, and the potential of a large earthquake exists up to the north, 6-ish, up to the north. And once that hits, that's up in Alaska, right along Kodiak. Once that hits, then I'll be issuing new warnings for California. I'll be issuing warnings for the Northwest. When the 5 hits here, or it should hit, when the 5 hits here, then we warn Southern California all the way back down at San Diego. We also warn Oklahoma, but I'm not going to issue those warnings yet until the earthquake hits. And if it doesn't hit, I'm not going to issue the warning. Pretty logical there, isn't it? I'm thinking always, guys. Okay, so 3.9 just hit up in Alaska as I'm talking. How about that? Man, when that happens, when I'm just suddenly point to an area, and then all of a sudden that area goes green and an earthquake hits, I promise you, I don't have an earthquake machine, and I don't have psychic ability. I have a time machine and an earthquake almanac, for crying out loud. Get in the 21st century. Okay, we're doing good. Wait, what? Oh, no, don't even read that chat. Oh my God, no, okay. Oh, here, I'm gonna turn off chat. We don't want to read that. Okay, there we go. We're doing good. Obviously, chat's doing great. I appreciate that comment about them, guys. That's a good one. Yeah. No, okay, let's be frank about the USGS. They actually enjoy the smell of their own, okay? You know what I mean? Oh, part of USGS training is echo chamber training. How much can you echo and how much will you listen to your own echo? Love it. People say they want to make me director of the USGS. Hell no. You would have to pay me $1 billion and force me to do it under the threat of a gun. And then if I did it, my first directive is going to be uniforms for all the USGS employees. And guess what they have to wear? A McDonald's-style uniform. For cost budget restraints, we're trying to save them money. They don't have to spend money on a wardrobe. They'll be provided a pair of Dickies and a little crew shirt and a name tag, and you don't even have to do your hair because you're going to be given a paper hat to wear. So, we're doing okay. Word up and much love, guys. Oh, yeah. I see other people in chat talking too. Now, one thing I'd like to say about the chat. For everybody who's watching on YouTube, you're watching a pre-recorded premiere. I do these live before my audience on Twitch and record them and upload them to YouTube. I brought my live stream back to YouTube already last week, and I got turned off, shut down, taken down to 187 live viewers again for 3 years in a row. That's a problem. 187, you know what that means. And YouTube sticking me with 187 when I've got 511,000 people who are subscribed, and 187 shows up 3 years straight whenever I start my live stream. That's the number of viewers? Yeah, that's a little freaky, and that's kind of like a message to me from somebody at the inside at Google, wouldn't you say? I mean, who can control the counts on YouTube? There's only one group, and that's in the inside. So I felt uncomfortable and I left. No offense or anything. I'm not complaining. I'm just letting you know why I'm live over on Twitch, which also went to 187. Hold on, wait. Twitch went to 187. YouTube went to 187. How could that happen? 511,000 subscribers on YouTube, 42,000 subscribers, followers, on Twitch. Two different services, multi-billion-dollar corporations. Who could control the count on both services? I wonder. Gee, it's starting to look like maybe the government doesn't like me. Oh, wait. The USGS issued public statements about me? What's this? Oh, no. On Twitter? Holy shit. I gotta call them. Oh, wait, I did? Man, I'm remembering this all now. It's like a bad dream. Yeah, we had to call the USGS, get stuff removed. They wrote about me personally on Twitter. They dissed me hard and wrote my name down, and I called them and got it removed, and they apologized. But, none of that actually matters. What matters now is that you understand earthquakes can be seen coming your way. The standing wave can be seen via the other earthquakes it's dropping off along the way as the standing wave is coming towards wherever you are. If you're concerned about seismic, you're concerned about seismic waves, you're concerned about earthquakes, well, you would watch it come at you like a river getting ready to flood. And you know that there's been a huge deposit of rain up the river, and you are along the river, you watch the river for flood amounts. It's basic 101. Same principle applies to seismic. So you're going to watch for the flow to increase. And the flow's coming from the sun. So when the sun starts bombarding Earth with charged particles, you hear about an X-class flare, you find out if it's Earth-facing. Then you wait for 2 to 3 days for the particles to arrive, and then you see a big major seismic increase. Start somewhere else in the world, and then come your way. So, we can know and calculate and basically plot a trajectory for the quakes, which way they're going to go. And they follow the plate boundaries and craton edges, so that makes it pretty easy. But anybody who said that it couldn't be done, man, dude, they're like not only behind the times, they were trying to stop it, trying to stop the research. But now that you know this, it's going to remove the fear and replace it with vigilance, like the weather. So, I'm sure that many of you have been through severe weather. I know I have. And it's an intimidating thing to go through the severe weather, right? Like you're running around, you're going down, take shelter in the basement. But you're not living perpetually in fear every day of the weather, because you can see it on the radar and you can do a forecast, even yourself, and figure out which general direction the wind's going to be blowing in from and which way the storms are going to come in from and how severe they're going to be. Well, the same thing is now possible with seismic events. And it's based upon VLF, very low frequency, spreading out from these points where the deep earthquakes are happening. And now that that mystery is removed, that takes away the scariness of earthquakes, and you can be vigilant. It'll still be intimidating. I've never been through a quake. I've never experienced even a small earthquake. Knock on wood. Which is freaking me out, and I say that at the end of my update every time now, which is freaky. I've never felt a quake. The only quake that ever actually hit that was feelable here in St. Louis in the past 20 years was the day I left to take the radiation road trip, June 5th into June 6th, 2011. I left to drive across the country to take radiation readings because the Environmental Protection Agency turned off their radiation monitoring equipment on the West Coast. Nobody could get their hands on a Geiger counter. So I got a Geiger counter, a brand new digital one, and drove across the country taking readings. When I left St. Louis, a few hours later, 5.0 earthquake struck in St. Louis. And on that note, I'm out of here. You guys have a good afternoon, evening, night, whenever or wherever you are. And if anything big goes down, I'll be back on live over on Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll try and record it if it's big and upload it so you can watch it back. Let's recap the warned areas. West Coast United States, Washington, Oregon, last day of the warning, 5.0. 6.0 due, or very close to it, up by Alaska's Kodiak Island. Secondary warned location Anchorage, but I'm thinking Kodiak. Going over to the west, Kamchatka, Russia, 6.0 range. Or eruptions, again, I'm not forecasting eruptions, but I'm going to watch that middle point. And then Japan, Tokyo, 6, due very soon. Next several days. Further over to the west, we should be seeing how many is that? That's like 5 different 6s we're going to see this week, most likely. Indonesia, over by... Oh, wait, hold on. A new earthquake has been reported right in here, right next to Krakatau, and one up at the northwest tip of Sumatra. But this new earthquake now, here, the 3.3 wasn't here when I did my update earlier. That halfway point between this new earthquake and this earthquake shifts the warned area from Krakatau to Java. Do you see that? That, again, I previously warned right here at the start of the update. Now a new earthquake struck right next to it, which cuts the area in half. And now, again, this, I just have to adjust it slightly. So Java is going to get a 6. You see how it's done? The halfway points are divided in half, just basic, or into quarters. So you take a halfway point, you cut it in half, that makes it a quarter point. So simple. I think that's how the professionals missed it, actually. That it's just such a basic thing that they were looking for it to be too complex. Some complex equations, and that it turns out that it's just a simple standing wave, a VLF standing wave, spreading out thousands of miles standing wave, which you would almost need to understand plasma physics and VLF before you go into earthquakes. Thank God for God. Thank God for God. I'll say it again. Thank God for God that God showed me HAARP, VLF, high frequency plasma physics before moving on to earthquakes. Like the trolls told me to. You know, that's why I got into quakes, right? I was getting trolled off the internet for covering weather modification. They come at me and they said, stick to earthquakes, Dutch. This is 2011. Comment after comment. You can go read it on my old weather modification video. Troll after troll. You should stick to earthquakes. You're better at that. I'm like, okay, all right. Okay. Next thing you know, I figure out earthquake forecasting. They're like, go back to weather, Dutch. Just get out of here, Dutch. You guys are absolutely fabulous. We'll be back. Peace out.